matters. It's really big that you're here. It's really big because everybody here has been called from the ethers to do the will, to fulfill the highest expression of yourself as a human being, and to do that in truth. How do you do that? Well, I think you let every step you take move you in the direction of the one thing all religions can agree on, and that is love. In all the conversations I've had with so many people over the years who run the gamut of all kinds of emotions and emotional dysfunctions, I've come to understand that what Marianne Williamson said is true. There's really only two emotions that count, and that's love and that's fear. And in all of your movements through life, you're either moving in the direction of one or the other. In order to have a meaningful life, you have to choose love. And not the schmaltzy-daltzy kind of love, but the kind of love that really counts. The kind of love that when everything else is going wrong and nobody even knows you're choosing it, you choose love. The kind of love that says, I'm here for you no matter what, you choose love. The kind of love that means you make the right decision even when you know the other person is wrong. You choose love because love is not just, it's a verb, and it's everything that represents kindness and grace and harmony and cooperation and reverence for life. So when you choose you're in a situation where you are mad and you know that they are wrong, if you can go to that space of the breath, in God I move and breathe and have my being, and make the choice just to move a little closer in the direction
when you grow up,
that
you
which
tend
is going to bring
get
you
told
grace,
that the world is the way it is, and
that which is going to
your
honor
life is just
yourself,
to live your life inside the
and
world.
by
Try not to
honoring
bash
yourself,
into the
you can't help
walls
but
too
honor
much.
the other person.
Try to have a nice
I've
family
learned
life.
to
Have
choose
fun.
love
Save a little money.
over fear, to choose love and
But
peace.
life, that's a very
rather
limited
than
life.
choosing
Life
to
can
be
be much
right.
broader once you discover
That
one
was a
simple
big
fact,
lesson for me.
and that is everything
Do you
around
want
you
peace?
that you call life
Do you
was
want
made
love?
up by
Do you
people
want to be
that
right?
were no
For a
smarter
little while I
than
was
you.
like, I'd rather be right.
And you can change it. You can
Rather be right
influence
with a
it.
little bit of love.
You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it. That's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again. Now, I've actually always found something to be very true, which is most people don't get those experiences because they never ask. I've never found anybody that didn't want to help me if I asked them for help. I always call them up. I called up, this will date me, but I called up Bill Hewlett when I was 12 years old, and he lived in Palo Alto. His number was still in the phone book. And he answered the phone himself. He said, yes? He said, hi, I'm Steve Jobs. I'm 12 years old. I'm a student in high school, and I want to build a frequency counter. And I was wondering if you had any spare parts I could have. And he laughed, and he gave me the spare parts to build this frequency counter, and he gave me a job that summer in Hewlett-Packard, working on the assembly line, putting nuts and bolts together on frequency counters. He got me a job in the place that built them. And I was in heaven. And I've never found anyone who said no or hung up the phone when I called. I just asked. And when people ask me, I try to be as responsive, to pay that debt of gratitude back. Most people never pick up the phone and call. Most people never ask. And that's what separates sometimes the people that do things from the people that just dream about them. You gotta act. And you've got to be willing to fail. You've got to be willing to crash and burn. You know, with people on the phone, with starting a company, with whatever. If you're afraid of failing, you won't get very far. There's no risk. Now that's why you need to do it young. Now, that's why we started Apple. We said, you know, we have absolutely nothing to lose. I was 20 years old at the time. Woz was 24 or 5. So we have nothing to lose. I mean, we have no families, no children, no houses. Woz had an old car. You know, I had a Volkswagen van. I mean, all we were going to lose is our cars and the shirts off our back. We had nothing to lose, and we had everything to gain. And we figured, even if we crash and burn and lose everything, the experience will have been worth 10 times the cost. So what did we have to lose? There was no risk. And that's, you know, I think that's a very healthy way to look at it. Some people say, well, you could have gone to college and been a lawyer. Well, you're right, but you can go to college and be a lawyer when you're 25. And there's nothing that stops you from doing that. The only thing you really have in your life is time. And if you invest that time in yourself to have great experiences that are going to enrich you, then you can't possibly lose. So I always advise people, don't wait. Do something when you're young, when you have nothing to lose, and keep that in mind. And I think that's the best way. Not that people can't start companies when they're 50. I've seen that. Very successful companies. But it's a lot easier when you're young and have nothing to lose and don't have the responsibilities to other people that you will acquire later on in your life. There is an entrepreneurial risk culture in the Valley that is as important to, it is as key of a reason why Silicon Valley exists as any other reason. I mean, the primary reasons are the entrepreneurial risk culture, the of which role models are a very big part. Second is the universities, Stanford and Berkeley. There wouldn't be a Silicon Valley if there weren't Stanford and Berkeley constantly bringing in human capital, which decides to stay here because it's so nice. And third, certainly for the number of companies that start, is the financial infrastructure as well. And then fourth is the beehive effect. You've got a lot of extraordinarily talented people, and the beehive effect says that it's a lot more efficient to have that talent and all those companies together. And let me give you an example. When you want to start a company, you need to hire some experienced people. You just can't hire people out of school most of the time. So you have to hire some experienced talent. Well, you're going to ask somebody to leave a job, maybe they have a family, and come to your place to work. Well, if your company's in Montana and they move their family and your company fails, there's not another company in Montana that they can go to work for, most likely. So you're going to have to move again. As where if all you have to do is convince them to turn left instead of right down the road to go to work in the morning, but they keep their same house, their kids don't have to change school, etc. And if your company fails, well, they just go get a job another week at some other company. You're going to have a much higher probability of recruiting them. And so that's the beehive effect. And those four things together, I think, are why Silicon Valley is today, what it is. The entrepreneurial risk culture has a lot to do with role models, starting off with Hewlett and Packard, and models of engineers that started companies, models of marketing people that started companies, and even some spectacular failures. Some of the failures are as widely discussed as the successes. And even even the failures, people are admired for trying. And I think they pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and go get a job. Maybe they don't own the company, maybe they're not a founder of the next company, but they've got a really good job, and there's no real chance that they'll end up destitute.
What could I say that could actually be helpful or useful to you in the future? And I thought perhaps tell the story of how I sort of came to be here. How did some of these things happen? And maybe there's some lessons there, because I often find myself wondering, how did this happen? So when I was young, I didn't really know what I was going to do when I got older. People kept asking me, and but then eventually I thought that the idea of inventing things would be really cool. And the reason I thought that was because